The House will come to order. Members will be at their seats. The clerk has opened the roll and you may record your presence. Please rise and give your attention to our House chaplain, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Representative Helwig.
Morning, friends. Allow me to pray for you. Father, you are a great and gracious God, and we thank and praise you for your goodness in each of our lives. Your word reminds us God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in time of trouble. Therefore, we will not fear, though the earth should change. Father, when we're in need of safety, you are the one who provides a refuge. When we become weary, you surprise us with new strength to carry on. When trouble visits, you're the one who provides a pathway to help. And when change is happening all around us, we look to you for stability, courage, and moral balance. We continue to pray for John Russman's family. Father, it's difficult for any of us to wrap our hearts and minds around this thing called death. Would you bless each of these representatives as they work through their own time of grief? In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. To the flag, States of America, and to the republic which stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Has every member had an opportunity to record their presence? Has every member had an opportunity to record their presence? The clerk will close the roll and record the attendance. Colleagues, we have a former representative on the South Wall today. Willie Dove is with us. The Speaker recognizes Representative Schreiber on a point of personal privilege.
And just kind of will arc across here. You need me to bend down, I will. All right. Good morning, colleagues. We're proud to present to you the 2026 class of Kansas Master Teachers. Talented, phenomenal, one in a million. These are the words often used by the people who work and learn from these 7 teachers chosen as the 2026 Kansas Master Teachers. This year's class includes Emily Chandler, 5th grade teacher at Fort Riley Elementary, USD 475, Geary County. Casey Avey, 8th grade social studies teacher at Susan B. Anthony Middle School, USD 383, Manhattan, Ogden. Kathleen Gilliland, mathematics and robotics teacher at Emporia High School, USD 253 in Emporia. Heather Hall, science and research teacher at Blue Valley West High School, USD 229 Blue Valley. Michelle Kelly, reading interventionist at Glenwood Ridge Elementary, USD 458 in Basser Linwood. Rachel Tanney, gifted teacher at Heatherstone Elementary, Sunnyside Elementary, and Madison Place Elementary in USD 233 Olathe. And Kimberly Tate, 7th grade math teacher at Chisholm Middle School, USD 373 Newton. Through the support of the Bank of America Charitable Foundation, each master teacher will be presented with a check for $1,000. Emporia State University established the Kansas Master Teacher Awards in 1954. The awards are presented annually to teachers who have served the profession long and well, who also typify the outstanding qualities of earnest and conscientious teachers. Please join me in congratulating the 2026 class of Kansas Master Teachers. Mr. Speaker, I ask that my words be spread across the journal.
Without objection, so ordered. Speaker recognizes Representative Roser on a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Jared Garrettson is a resident of Manhattan, Kansas, a private pilot, and the owner of Garrettson Aviation. Most importantly, he is a husband to his wife, Ashley, and father to his children, Jetson and Georgia. He is a born and raised Kansan, growing up in Sublette, a small town in southwest Kansas, and attended Kansas State University for his undergraduate studies. While at K-State, he leaned into a passion that had been growing for years, aviation, and earned his private pilot license. Not long after, he met and he married his wife, Ashley, and they began building their life and family here in Kansas. He also owns a float plane hangared at Manhattan Regional Airport and requested the seaplane bill that we're seeing right now here in our current body. As CEO of Garrettson Aviation, Jared has a mission of making aviation innovative and accessible to as many people as possible. His company is rare in the aviation community. He and his team build backcountry bush planes and is the primary contractor for Badlands Traveler aircraft. These airplanes are unique, American-made aircraft, and they focus on short takeoff and landing, built for pilots looking to optimize short, rugged landing zones and adventurous flying. To compare this to an off-roading Jeep would be the closest automotive equivalent. As a builder and owner of Badlands Traveler STOL aircraft, Jared has competed in the National STOL Series, a competitive level-based program that hosts competitions across the country with the goal of taking off in the shortest distance possible, landing in the shortest distance possible, and its precision flying under pressure. This isn't freestyle bush flying. Pilots try to take off as short as possible and touch down just past a marked line on landing. Judges measure the distance for each run, and the pilot's best takeoff and landing distances are added together from the same clean run, with the lowest total winning. Aircraft are grouped into classes, but pilot skill, energy control, accuracy, and braking matters as much as the airplane. It looks extreme, but it's tightly regulated and focused on safe, controlled flying. In 2025, Jared won first place at Pony Express STOL, Sodbuster STOL, Rocky Mountain STOL, Music City STOL, and Lone Star STOL in what is currently the world's only flying backcountry Super Cubs Boss Cub, and ultimately won his class at the national finals. To present this award, I would like to recognize a 2025 Wilderness Class Champion of the National STOL Series, Jared Garrettson. Alongside him is his beautiful wife, Ashley, their two children, Jetson and Georgia, his parents, and the Garrettson Aviation team. I couldn't be prouder to have the opportunity to recognize someone whose story and character embodies a prime example of our Kansas values. That being said, it is my pleasure and honor to award a point of personal privilege to Jared Garrettson on behalf of the 2026 Kansas House of Representatives. Mr. Speaker, I ask that my words be spread across the journal.
Without objection, so ordered. Colleagues, if you have not had an opportunity to sign Representative Ressman's book that is on his desk, do so before the end of the day today. At the end of the day, Representative Pishney is going to deliver to the family the flowers and the book, and I guarantee you it will be treasured by them. Introduction of bills and concurrent resolutions. The clerk will read.
House Bill number 2789 by Committee on Federal and State Affairs, requested by Curtis Knapp, an act concerning abortion.
Messages from the Senate. The clerk will read.
The Senate non-concurs in House amendments to H sub SB 197, request a conference, and has appointed Senators Alley, Owens, and Falscadeau as conferees on the part of the Senate, announcing adoption of HCR 5033.
Speaker recognizes Majority Leader Croft for a motion to accede.
Mr. Speaker, the Senate did not concur on the House amendments to House substitute for substitute Senate Bill 197 and requested a conference. I move the House accede to the request of the Senate and that a conference committee be appointed.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Motion passes as conferees on the part of the House. The Speaker appoints Representative Tarwater, Ward, and Sawyer Clayton. Senate Bill 348 appears on the consent calendar for the third day. Is there an objection? Seeing none, it will be advanced to final action. Final action on bills and concurrent resolutions. The clerk will read.
SB 348 by Committee on Utilities, an act concerning the State Corporation Commission relating to the jurisdiction of the Commission over electric public utilities, exempting any electric public utility that is a not-for-profit wholly owned subsidiary of an electric cooperative public utility from the jurisdiction of the State Corporation Commission, establishing certain exceptions, authorizing the customers of such subsidiary utility to petition the Commission to investigate the rates of such utility, authorizing the Commission to order new rates if the Commission finds that such rates are found to be unjust, unreasonable, unjustly discriminatory, or unduly preferential, requiring the customers of such subsidiary utility to receive notice of and be provided access to meetings concerning electric rates, providing an option for the customers of such subsidiary utility to elect to terminate such exemption.
This constitutes final action on Senate Bill 348. The clerk will open the roll and you may record your vote. Has every member had an opportunity to record their vote? The clerk will close the roll. Does any member desire to explain his or her vote? Does any member desire to change his or her vote? Seeing 10 hands, call the House is in order. The doorman will close the door. Members will be at their seats, and the clerk will call the roll.
McNorton, Neighbor, Poskin, Roser, Sanders, Langenzipen, L. Williams, Nguyen.
Representative Roser votes aye. Representative Laura Williams votes aye. Representative McNorton votes aye. Not seeing 10 hands, the call is raised. Are there any further changes of vote? Seeing none, 119 voting in favor and 0 against the passage of Senate Bill 348. The same having received a constitutional majority, the bill is hereby declared passed. The clerk will record the vote. Speaker recognizes Majority Leader Croft for a motion to resolve into the Committee of the Whole.
Mr. Speaker, I move the House resolve itself in the Committee of the Whole for the purpose of considering those items under the heading of general orders.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Motion carries. Speaker appoints Representative Estes to chair the Committee of the Whole.
The first item of business is HB 2644. For the purposes of carrying 2644, the chair recognizes Representative Smith.
Testing, there we go. Well, thank you, Madam Chair. Forgot to hit my button. Didn't want to find. Madam Chair, there were committee amendments. I move adoption of the committee report.
You have heard the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The motion passes and the committee report is adopted. Please continue.
I appreciate the enthusiasm. Thank you, Madam Chair. House Bill 2644 adds residential real property and residential personal property mobile homes to an existing statute, KSA 79-1460. This statute currently directs county appraisers to acknowledge a base value. If you've appealed your property and that value was reduced as a result of that appeal, the appeals process, that property value cannot be increased more than 5% for the next 2 years unless a appraiser has a fee simple appraisal done on the property to prove essentially that there is a increase over 5%. That's existing law for commercial property. We want to add residential property to that, and we also want to extend the 2 years to 5 years. We're attempting to solve the problem where if you are a homeowner and you appeal your property value and you win your case, either at the local level or with the Board of Tax Appeals, that value is good for that year that you've appealed it, but then the following year, it just jumps back up and you have to appeal once again. So we're trying to get the appraisers, trying to require them to acknowledge that win through the Board of Tax Appeals and to kind of establish a base year using that value. Historically, we attempted something similar to this back in 2014. For those of you who might have been around then, it was ruled unconstitutional because it said for 2 years, your property value was frozen. It did not allow for any increase. The Supreme Court ultimately ruled that did not allow appraisers to actually determine fair market value. So it was unconstitutional, but because it was not equal and uniform. So we discussed this briefly during the interim tax committee this summer. I visited with the revisers trying to determine what can we do to this law that was changed and proposed and ruled unconstitutional to mitigate any further challenges. And this was the result of that bill. So we're trying to modify just the existing statute that's been on the books for about 10 years. And it has not been challenged, so we're trying to add residential property to that. And with that, Madam Chair, I would be happy to stand for questions.
Thank you. Does any member desire to speak to the bill? The chair recognizes Representative Sawyer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The chair of the committee did a thorough job explaining the bill. I will add that in committee, we added an amendment to include mobile homes into the bill as well, so they will also be included. So I rise in support of the bill. It's a good bill. If you go through the process to appeal your valuation and you win, you ought to be able to enjoy the benefits of that win and not have the appraiser just go ahead and raise the value back up the next year.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Representative Melton.
Thank you. Would you stand for a couple of questions, please?
Certainly.
So I guess coming from a mortgage background, I can't quite understand the mobile home part of it and what the thinking of with that is. So one question I have is, does it matter if the mobile home is on a permanent foundation, the wheels removed, or can it just be sitting in a lot?
The reason we had to include mobile homes is they are not considered real property, but they are homes. So we had to include personal property, as the bill says, personal property, mobile homes that are used for residential purposes. So I'm not sure the foundation requirement, if they are being used for a home, they are included in the bill, is my understanding.
Okay. And then my next question is fee simple appraisal. Last I remember, those are pretty pricey, especially residential. And then when you get in commercial, that's a whole different price range. Do you know approximately how much these run and who will be paying, who will have the burden of paying for this?
The burden falls on the county appraiser. If they believe that the value exceeds the 5%, the burden is on the local government county appraiser's office to hire that independent fee simple appraisal to be done. It's not to be passed on to the taxpayer.
Okay, thank you.
And I missed your other question. I don't know approximately how much that would cost. I'm sure there's a range across the state. I'm not sure what that would be.
Okay, thank you.
The chair recognizes Representative Osman.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Would the carrier of the bill stand for a question?
Certainly.
All right, thank you. I like the bill. I'm just worried about the unintended consequence of it. So if you have a situation where somebody wins an appeal, the municipality or the county is now capped for valuation of 5% going forward for the next 5 years, wouldn't that encourage the county to just flat out deny all appeals so that they are not limited and anybody that wishes to has to go through the Board of Tax Appeals for any appeals at that point? Yeah, let's start with that question.
Okay. I won't speculate on what effect it might have on how they handle these. It is not a hard cap. It does allow the provision. I think a hard cap could be challenged to be unconstitutional, because if the property needed to be assessed or appraised at a 10% increase, for instance, there needs to be a mechanism to allow for that. And that's where we include the fee simple appraisal as kind of the burden of proof to show and prove that that property actually does need to be increased at a level higher than the 5%.
All right. Thank you very much.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, Representative Smith, you may close on your motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. When move that when the body rises and reports, report House Bill 2644 favorable for passage.
Thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The motion passes. The next item of business is House Bill 2427. The chair recognizes Representative Williams Christie for the purposes of carrying HB 2427.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There were committee amendments. I move the adoption of the committee report.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, nay. And the motion carries. Representative, you may continue.
All right, House Bill 2427. It's just a common sense procedure that if we pass it, then we'll be able to fully fulfill our constitutional role. And its purpose is to strengthen the legislative oversight of public funds, which is our responsibility. So once we appropriate monies, oftentimes we don't actually see the final end result of those appropriations because we don't see those line items. We don't see those individual expenditures. The legislature actually relies on KLRD. They rely on requests to agencies. They require us to often request audits to get to the bottom of how money is actually expended. And that's difficult and obviously not timely. This bill helps to close the gap in that time lost and the lack of access to information. So what it will do is it will provide for 2 fiscal auditors that will have real-time access to state core accounting and budgeting systems. So with that, Madam Chair, I'll stand for questions.
Thank you, Representative. I'd also like to thank the previous representatives for hitting their buttons and turning that off, but we'll also mention that it's getting a little bit difficult to hear. For those who would like to speak to the bill, the chair recognizes Representative Waymaster.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As the previous representative just kind of mentioned, this has been something that we've actually been talking about for quite some time. The speaker and myself have identified, especially after the legislature has generated its own budget in the last couple of sessions. This has been something that he and I have been talking about, as I mentioned, for quite some time in regards to having somebody internally within the legislature that would be able to identify and work in regards to our budget. And then they'd be able to do that all year round, as opposed to just being while we're in session. And that would be somebody that would directly report to the Speaker of the House and to the President of the Senate. At first, we just had one fiscal integrity auditor, but then we thought it was only actually kind of fair to have the other chamber have one as well. And so that's why there was an amendment in committee to actually increase that from one individual to two. But this individual will actually have a cost savings to the state. Having the ability to analyze and scrutinize our budget on an annual basis and all year round, the $250,000 for these two positions will by far pay for themselves in cost savings to the state of Kansas. So in accessing some of that information in regards to our smart system and other technologies that we have out there in regards to who actually receives some of the payments and the vendors, there has been some concern on the confidentiality of some of that information. And so with that, Madam Chair, I have an amendment.
The, would you like to explain your amendment?
Yes, I can do that, Madam Chair. So what this does is it just tightens some of the language in regards to the confidentiality that these individuals, the fiscal integrity auditors, would be able to be accessible to. And so this is just going to try to eliminate some of the concerns that they have to keep all of this information confidential. And so I'll just read exactly what the amendment says. It's pretty straightforward. And it says, prior to accessing any technology systems and software containing protected, confidential, or personally identifiable information, the fiscal integrity auditor shall, 1, execute confidentiality and non-disclosure agreements. 2, complete annual cybersecurity and data privacy training as required by the Legislative Chief Information Technology Officer. 3, comply with cybersecurity policies as required by the Legislative Chief Information Technology Officer. 4, use any state-approved secure devices and networks. And finally, 5, be prohibited from downloading, externally transmitting, or using portable storage for protected data, except as expressly authorized in writing. So this just tightens up the duties and responsibilities and ensuring that the fiscal integrity auditors are using confidentiality in all of their daily business. So with that, Madam Chair, I'd stand for questions.
Thank you. Is there any member who would like to speak on the amendment? Representative Williams.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I actually think this is a very friendly amendment. We want to make sure that confidentiality is secure and that the proper training is in place. Ask you to support this amendment. Thank you.
The chair recognizes Representative Ballard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think shall I say it's a friendly amendment? It's something was needed, something that I was going to comment on when I came down. I don't have to now. Thank you very much.
If there is no further discussion, Representative Waymaster, you may close on your amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And as the previous representative from Douglas County, this is the main reason why I brought this amendment, because there was much concern in regards to data or other systemic information that might be leaked out. So we just want to make sure that everything is kept confidential and on state resources. So with that, Madam Chair, I would move my amendment.
You have heard the motion by Representative Waymaster to amend. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The amendment passes. We are back on the bill. Representative Waymaster, were you done? The chair recognizes Representative Ballard. We appear to be waiting on amendments, so the chair recognizes Representative Hoy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I stand opposed to this bill for a couple of reasons. I do think that the confidentiality amendment that was adopted does recognize the immense security risks of this bill, but it still did not provide any firewalls around some of the very sensitive information that the two individuals would have access to, including social security numbers, bank routing and account numbers, dates of birth, and names and addresses of undercover agents. So we're still relying on the training, signing of the agreements, which is an improved step, but I still don't see why fiscal integrity officers would need access to some of this data that is currently available to them. So I think the bill is still a massive cybersecurity risk, even with that amendment. The second reason is I don't see why we need to continue to grow the legislative branch in order to find these cost savings. The legislature for fiscal year 2027, we have budgeted $12.2 million higher than our expenditures from just last year. So I still don't know why it's necessary to add an FTE and a position and fund that in order to find those additional savings. I'm very confident that we have within our current resources the capability of doing that. So just to recap, with the cybersecurity risks and the increase that this provides in the budget, I will be voting no on it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
The chair recognizes Representative Blake Carpenter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I wanted to come down and talk a little bit about this legislation today and really where it originated and where it came from. So last year, towards the end of session, my office engaged with the governor's office in order to try to do a deeper dive to get information line by line on what money we're spending and where we're spending at. And over a several month period, we worked with the administration. We didn't ask for PII or anything like that. They weren't necessarily comfortable with giving that to us, and that was fine. But we did what we could with the data that we had. We even plussed up the staff in my office, where my chief of staff ended up spending 2 to 3 months, hundreds of man hours over the summer and early fall timeframe to go over what is in these line items and what they meant. And just with us doing that, we were able to find tens of millions of dollars, I would actually argue hundreds of millions of dollars in questionable spending. And so that is the reason why this exists today, because if we can get some people who are in here that are trained to look for these types of items to find any inefficiencies that we're spending, that is saving taxpayer dollars. Right now, we have a deficit that we are running in this state of Kansas to the tune of $600 to $700 million right now. And we have to start trying to find where we can find these efficiencies with the money that we spend, and this is how we start getting after it. So I will be supporting this legislation. I sincerely appreciate the staff time and effort that went into their efforts this last year in order to provide us that snapshot into where we can start seeing how to actually dig and get after these budgets. So I will be standing in favor of House Bill 2427. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Representative Mallard, are you still waiting on your amendment? Okay, we'll stand at ease while we wait for that amendment unless there's anybody else who would like to speak to the bill. The chair recognizes Representative Helgerson.
Almost have to use a calculator. I think I've been on appropriations or Ways and Means 25 years or plus. And I understand the need or the desire to have more information, but I'm not in favor of this bill. Believe me, I can find out everything in this building or across the street or anywhere else if I want to find it out. That's what post audit was set up for. That's what I've used the Attorney General for at times. This will be $500,000 of additional expenditures that I don't agree with. I think we can find everything we want out by asking the questions. And lo and behold, if an agency wouldn't give me the answers, they would not get the funding. That's how I used to do it. That's how Gus Bogina used to do it. That's how Bill Button used to do it, except Bill would come up here in his socks and stand at this well and say those things. You use the power of the purse to demand every bit of information and to justify whether or not they're in the right or wrong. And if they do not give you the answer, you tell them to take a walk and you don't fund them. Last year or the year before, I said because I was unhappy with the department that handles the hospitals in this state, I said, pull the $40-some million for contract labor because they're not coming up with solutions to why we're spending so much money in the state budget for outside nurses. Now, we pulled the money. They still haven't given me the answers, but I want to use the power of the purse that we control, that is constitutionally given to us, to say, that's how we make the decisions. I'll also say one thing, and I'm going to hear it from the second floor on this. The second floor and the House have gone downhill in communications. There is not the bipartisan support between this leadership, and the governor's office. I'll also say this leadership, because nobody else has gotten kicked off of a committee because they questioned the governor, except me. But even though that happened, the communication has to start from the discussion, and if it's not there, then you look at the tools you have. Creating additional items or additional staff is not the idea. I think I can get everything I need to put a budget together and put a budget together that does what the House and the Senate want without some additional staffing. I run counter to most people that I
Let's please lower the volume.
You talking to me?
When it comes to time for fines of the amigos, we'll fine all the loud talkers.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So I respect the leadership for proposing this. I just think that there are other ways of instituting and making sure we have the tools to get the budget put together in such a way. I also raised the question, you put in one person of that answers to this body, there's going to be a lot more influence that goes to the House Republicans because that's the majority party. That's just the bottom line. I know that. And as I've looked at other legislatures around the country, this begins with one house having some staff. Then we have to do the equal party of having the Democrats have some staffing. And then we end up building up another bureaucracy. We have the ideal bureaucracy set up right now that was the model for other states. And I can't overemphasize that. I believe that it's better not to pass this bill, even though there's some good reasons to try to get it done, but I think next year it'll be even better. So thank you very much for your time.
The chair sees that Representative Ballard is almost ready with her amendment, so we will recognize her next as soon as she's ready. The chair recognizes Representative Ballard. The amendment appears short. The clerk will read.
I move to amend substitute for HB 2427 on page 1 in line 15 after president by inserting "and the minority leader," in line 16 after speaker by inserting "and the minority leader." On page 2 in line 9 after president by inserting "and the minority leader," in line 10 after speaker by inserting "and the minority leader," in line 35 after president by inserting "and the minority leader," in line 37 after speaker by inserting "and the minority leader."
Representative Ballard, you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Basically, my amendment is actually asking that wherever it appears that you will submit a report to the Senate or the House, that you also include the minority leader in the House and the Senate as well.
Representative, do you have questions on your amendment?
Excuse me, ma'am.
Were you done?
I'm happy to stand for questions.
Any member wish to speak to the amendment? The chair recognizes Representative Williams.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So just to clarify, this amendment changes one thing, and that's the reporting. The reporting goes to the president and the minority leader and the speaker and the minority leader.
That's all it does.
That's all it does. Okay. Well, I think that sounds okay. Thank you, Representative.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it very much.
The chair recognizes, oops, unhit his, but any other members like to speak to the amendment? Seeing none, Representative Ballard, you may close.
I was ready. Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate.
The chair recognizes the speaker.
I actually think this is fine. I've worked fine with the minority leaders, and I think it's good for us both to have eyes on this, so I support it.
Does any other member wish to speak to the amendment? Seeing none, Representative Ballard, you may close.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I close.
All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, nay. And the amendment appears to have passed, and the ayes do have it. The motion passes. Representative Ballard, do you wish to continue?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I don't want to thank the representative for explaining the bill so that you have an idea of what's in it as well. My caucus also has heard about this bill as well. I do have some concerns about it, and I voiced these concerns in appropriations. And part of it is, number one, do we really need these two positions? Apparently, it's felt that it does. And the precautions that I was concerned about, the Chair of Appropriations did explain it, and that made me feel a little more comfortable about the confidentiality and the information as well. I do think we have an outstanding Department of Fiscal Affairs, and they've been able to identify. Actually, one of the ways that we have found out that there might be some inappropriate kinds of reimbursements is because they have supplied that information. Even though I feel this is not needed, I would also say that we need to have lots of eyes on it. And if people feel more comfortable that we're not paying when we don't have to, where there's fraud and you can find it, I think we're all in favor of that as well. And the fact that these reports will now go to both our minority leaders, they also will have an eye on it. And with that, I would say vote your choice on House Substitute 2427. And I close, Madam Chair.
Representative, thank you. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak to the bill? Seeing none, Representative Williams. Representative Carlin.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I do appreciate the amendments that have gone on this bill. I just want to look around and see who was here. And I really don't remember what year it was. I tried to find out from research just now and I haven't gotten the answer back. But a few years ago, we had an outside company come in and go through all our spending, all our budget. And I was on appropriations at the time, and it was a year or two long. And we got back a book. Troy was here, Representative was here.
Names, please.
I apologize. But it was about this thick of efficiencies. And when we looked through it, it was not worth the effort. We were disappointed. But they went line by line and item by item and studied this whole budget. And they were wrong on a lot of their interpretations. It was just a waste of time. I don't have the figures because I didn't have time to get them. I don't know what we spent and I don't know when it was, but it was several years ago, maybe 8, 10 years ago. But the same thing would happen again. And I think we have a budget director that does that for us. And we have good research. I think this is not an important bill for us, and I will be voting no.
Are there any further members who wish to speak to the bill? Seeing none, Representative Williams, you may close.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I do want to address a few of the items that were mentioned from our friends across the aisle. From the representative from Douglas County, I agree that we have very, very competent staff in both the Department of Budget as well as legislative research. That is absolutely true. To answer the question, do we really need this? In our committee, we actually provided testimony in a situation in which the chair of appropriations and the vice chair of appropriations had made inquiries around May of last year for expenditure items. We waited a month, we waited 2 months, we waited 3 months. This type of information is not readily accessible to our research. They must make the request, wait to receive it, and then they can pass it along to us. We want to bypass that inefficient step and be able to look ourselves. So do we really need it? We believe we do if we want to actually do a great job of controlling our spending and a great job of holding ourselves accountable for our spending. Also to mention from the representative from Sedgwick County, he mentioned that it had a $500,000 fiscal note. It's not $500,000. Our legislative budget committee actually made a bipartisan decision to set forth or set aside in our budget $250,000 for these two positions that potentially, as the chair of appropriations stated, could save us many millions. And if it does not, we should absolutely not continue this. It's something that gives us real-time information, real-time access that's important for our decision-making. And I can tell you from our budget chairs on in appropriations and ways and means, they're often left making huge financial decisions without all of the information in real time. It lags by years without real-time information. On the item of confidentiality brought up by the representative from Johnson County, I would say that we put every single stopgap or safeguard that you could. And in fact, we probably have more than actually exist for those 10 individuals with the Department of Budget. They have access to everything. We're adding only 2 additional individuals that work for the State House, for the Speaker, and for the President in conjunction with the minority leaders of both sides. So they would have the same requirements or higher requirements than those that already have access to this confidential material. So this is actually a bill about being proactive, not reactive. Its intention is to prevent misuse, not merely report on it. Years later, it does not veto expenditures. It does not direct agencies. It actually is there to empower us to be the best legislators possible. So with that, Madam Chair, I move that when the committee rises and reports, it reports House Bill 2427 favorably for passage as amended.
You have heard the motion by Representative Williams to report HB 2427 favorably. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The motion passes. The next item of business is HB 2513. For the purposes of carrying HB 2513, the chair recognizes Representative Rogers.
Thank you, Madam Chair. House Bill 2513 is the one we look forward to every year. It is the claims against the state. What we had this year was still a good number of claims, and the total amount paid out $6,346.91. So with that, I will take questions.
Thank you, Representative. Is there anybody who would like to speak to the bill? The chair recognizes Representative Ballard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, it's the claims bill, HB 2513. One of the things I have heard, this is the smallest amount of claims that you would have seen in many years. Sometimes we've had so many claims. This time, just a few, a little over $6,000. One of the things that I just want to comment, there were 3 meetings, and they narrowed it down to these expenses. Questions we've asked, well, how do we know for sure that these people are legit? Well, they are in many ways because they're so stringent on who they fund and who they do not fund as well. And with that, I would ask you to please vote for this claims bill, HB 2513. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative. Is there anybody else who would like to speak to the bill? Seeing none, Representative Rogers, you may close.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move when we rise and report that the House move or pass House Bill 2513 favorable is favorable for passage.
You have heard the motion by Representative Rogers to report HB 2513 favorably. All those in favor, please say aye. And opposed, nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and the motion passes. That concludes our general order. The chair recognizes the majority leader.
Madam Chair, I move we rise and report.
You have heard the motion to rise and report. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. And the motion passes.
The clerk will read the committee report.
Mr. Speaker, your committee of the whole recommends that House Bill 2513 be passed, House Bill 2644, House Bill 2427 be passed as amended.
Speaker recognizes Representative Estes to adopt the committee of the whole report.
I move adoption of the committee report.
You've heard the motion to adopt the committee report. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee report is adopted. Reports of standing committee, the clerk will read.
The Committee on Commerce, Labor, and Economic Development recommends Senate Bill 229 be amended by substituting with a new bill to be designated as House substitute for Senate Bill number 229 as follows: an act concerning labor and employment, and the substitute bill be passed. The Joint Committee on State Tribal Relations introduces House Resolution number 6033, a resolution approving the gaming compact between the Wyandotte Nation and the state of Kansas, and recommends adoption of the resolution. House Resolution number 6033 by Joint Committee on State Tribal Relations, a resolution approving the gaming compact between Wyandotte Nation and the state of Kansas.
House Resolution 6033 is hereby referred to Committee of the Whole Committee. We have the following committee assignments. Representative Laura Williams to replace Representative Clark Sanders on the House Committee on Federal and State Affairs on Tuesday, March 3rd and Wednesday, March 4th. This appointment expires at the end of the day on March 4th. Representative Susan Humphreys to replace Representative John Ressman on the House Committee on Federal and State Affairs on Tuesday, March 3rd and Wednesday, March 4th. This appointment expires at the end of the day on the 4th. Representative Barbara Ballard replaces Representative Jerry Stogsdale on the House Committee on Education on Monday, March 2nd. This appointment expired at the end of the day yesterday. Representative Sidney Carlin replaces Representative Valdini Nguyen on the House Committee on Education on Monday, March 2nd. That appointment expired at the end of the day yesterday. Representative Susan Ruiz replaces Representative Nguyen on the House Committee on Financial Institutions and Pensions on Wednesday, March 4th. This appointment expires at the end of the day on Wednesday, the 4th. Are there announcements? Speaker recognizes Representative Riley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to invite the office assistants and the committee assistants and lobbyists and the rest of us to Bible study tomorrow morning, 7 o'clock, room 142. Thank you.
Speaker recognizes Representative Stogsdale.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Democrats, we will have agenda tomorrow morning at 8:30. 8:30. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Speaker recognizes Representative Blake Carpenter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. All right, it's the last day. Last time you have to hear me make an announcement. Freedom from Taxes Fund, over here, co-sponsorship. I'm closing it out. Maybe after session, maybe early afternoon, but it will be turned in today. Thank you so much. Appreciate all of the co-sponsors that have already signed. Thank you.
Speaker recognizes Representative Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There may be a little confusion, but Agriculture and Natural Resources will not meet today. Meeting is canceled.
Speaker recognizes Representative Beeler.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Social Services Budget Committee, a reminder today, we've got the tour of the Tanglewood Behavioral Center. The address should be in your calendar invitation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Speaker recognizes Representative Tarwater.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Attention commerce fans. I failed to put on the agenda today that possible working of previous bills heard, but we are going to work a bill today in commerce at the end of the day. SB 335 has to do with mutual waiver of consequential damages. Very titillating stuff. Bring your popcorn, tune in, YouTube. It's all online. Let's have fun. Thanks. Bye.
Speaker recognizes Representative Oropeza.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Wyandotte County Delegation, we're meeting in room 152 for lunch, and we're going to hear from KCK Travel. Thank you.
Speaker recognizes Representative Schreiber.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just a reminder for those that RSVP'd for the abolition of the death penalty lunch It's in 159 South, as soon as we get off the floor. Thank you.
Speaker recognizes Representative Rivas.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just a reminder, today is county day, so all of you, everybody here is from a county somewhere, so be sure and go meet some of your county officials in the rotunda or down on the first floor. Reminder to the local government caucus, you might notice that today we're wearing our little yellow buttons. We're meeting up with the county for lunch for the government caucus. So first floor north for the local government caucus.
Speaker recognizes Representative Hobson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Body, as many of you know, in Wichita, we actually lost one of our former colleagues, former state representative Melanie McCray Miller. She actually died about 2 weeks ago, and we actually are sponsoring a resolution on her behalf. So I do have the sign-up sheet for those of you who are actually interested in signing on. I have it on my desk. So hopefully by the end of maybe Thursday or so, I'll turn it in. So I have it on my desk. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Are there any further announcements? Seeing none, Speaker recognizes the Majority Leader for a motion to adjourn.
Republicans, we will caucus tomorrow morning in the old Supreme Court at 8 a.m. Mr. Speaker, I move the House adjourn until Wednesday, March 4th at 11 a.m.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. We are adjourned.